We all know what happened on the 24th of February, 2022. That's when the full-scale invasion of Ukraine started. What you just saw there was the Kharkiv Regional Administration building. That's a building that I've walked in front of hundreds of times over the last 30 years. A little bit about myself. I'm Jeff Bianco, founder and president of DevPro. I've been working in Ukraine for about 30 years, built and sold a number of software companies, and it's been a fantastic experience through the years working in Ukraine and with Ukrainians. This is a little bit about myself and my path. I was obviously much younger in some of these photos, but it shows all the time and that I've spent working with Ukrainians. So why Ukraine and why Ukrainians? I think the world has seen since the war started the resourcefulness and dedication and all the hard work that Ukrainians put into everything, their work in their everyday life. That's something that I've seen throughout my time as well. They're hardworking, bright, responsible people, and really pleasure to work with. So first, a little bit about DevPro. We're a global outsourcing company with our roots in Ukraine. We have we build products and teams for world famous brands. We have about 800 people overall, and we're going to talk a little bit today about the journey from being what I would call a Ukrainian outsourced company to a global, worldwide company, and how we adapted during a time of crisis. It all started with COVID. Like a lot of you, everyone worked from an office at the beginning. We had offices in 3 cities in Ukraine, and that was normal for the first, up until COVID started. But then, COVID, I tell people, is really what ended up saving our company, because everyone was working remotely, and we learned how to work remotely. We learned how to adapt to new environments. So when the war started, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes, we were able to actually hit the ground running in a way we couldn't have done if we didn't first learn how to work remotely. And like a lot of you now, no one actually wants to work from the office anymore. So 97% of our people are now working remotely, but I would say quite successfully. So we'll talk a little bit about the transformation that happened before the war started. Many people may not remember, but in the spring and summer of 2021, there was tension in the region. Russia was building up troops along the border. There was a feeling that a war may have started at that point. And we actually instituted our business continuity plan. And the idea behind the plan was we wanted to make sure people, they know how to work remotely, but do they know how to work remotely from somewhere other than their kitchen table? So we came up with a plan. We offered people $1,500 to work from different part of the world. They could go to Turkey, Georgia, Cyprus, anywhere they wanted, as long as they had their documents, had their paperwork. We wanted to make sure they had roaming available on their phone, whatever it would take. We helped people through the process. Only about 20% of our staff took us up on the offer. People thought, okay, it's free vacation. I'll go to the beach on the weekends, and I'll spend some time outside of the country. But for us, it was a proof to ourselves and to our people that if the worst did happen, we'd be prepared for it. So we'll fast forward a little bit to February 13th of 2022. That's when things started getting quite hot. The U.S. government and President Biden was saying, the war is coming. Everyone needs to be prepared for it. But unfortunately, most people in Ukraine and the Ukrainian government was saying the opposite. No one actually thought it was going to happen. But that's the 13th is the day that we went from what we say is the threat yellow to orange, and we re-implemented that plan of remote work. We offered everyone $1,500 to work outside the country for a month. We tried to encourage people to go, but once again, people were not thrilled with the idea. A lot of people that went did it because they thought, it's a free vacation, but why not? And we only had, 15, 20% of our company taking us up on it. So I'll tell you about a couple of our people. There's Stacy and there's Inga. A few days, probably 4 or 5 days after the 13th, I called up 5 or 6 of our staff, and I asked them, "Why are you not taking us up on the offer? What's holding you back?" So Stacy, she's worked with us for about 8 years, so I know her very well. She said, "Well, my husband, he has a job that he can't leave. He wouldn't be able to leave the country. And my mother, she doesn't want to leave. She doesn't think anything's going to happen. So, I think we're just going to stay here and see what happens." Inga, she and her husband bought a house in a little town outside of Kyiv. That was being renovated, she said, and if she left the country, the renovation would stop. And by the time it started again, she wouldn't have a place to live in Kyiv. So she really said she'd be okay. She'll stay with her neighbors in that little town outside of Kyiv. So as you all know, on the 24th of February, the war actually started, and we really kicked our business continuity plan into high gear at that point, went to the threat yellow red, and we had plans in place. We had a group of 60 of our operational people. They worked in shifts around the clock to help our staff and their families, adapt to the very dangerous and stressful environment. We were able to help find evacuation routes. If you remember that map, Kharkiv was the eastern border of Ukraine. That was our main office. And it was about 40 kilometers from the Russian border. So they were right in the thick of things as this was all happening. But it wasn't just what we were able to do internally. We started a GoFundMe page. We raised over $100,000 from friends, from colleagues, our clients. Clients contributed individually. Some contributed thousands of dollars because they don't look at our staff as just, oh, they're those outsourced people. They look at them as part of their team, part of their family. So the GoFundMe was administered on our side by a team of 5 people, not from the management, but someone from HR, someone from finance, and 3 other people. And they would meet throughout the day as requests came in for funding of different kind. They would say, yes, this is something we can help with. And then they would send the money out right away. Most of it was for finding people places to stay, but a lot of people left without anything. They left, with just the clothes on their back, or they got in the car and they started heading west. Car might break down. They needed money to keep moving. So throughout the process in the beginning stages and before the war, we ended up moving 230 people abroad and 268 to Western Ukraine. At the beginning, anyone could cross the border to leave the country, but then within a few days, only females or people with a large number of dependents, males with a large number of dependents, could end up leaving. So a lot of people, the best they could do was move to the western part of the country. We ended up spending as a company over $400,000 to support people throughout this process. And we'll talk more about the reactions and how that was received in a few minutes. But from a company perspective, we decided to open offices in 3 different countries. Poland, because of the geographic proximity and cultural proximity to Ukraine. So a lot of people ended up in Poland, but Poland was overwhelmed with millions of Ukrainians, and housing was hard to find. So Bulgaria was our next choice, lower cost country, but it doesn't share a border with Ukraine. So the housing wasn't as impacted, and people were able to go there. Since it wasn't the summer season as well, there was a lot of vacation rental apartments available. So people were able to go there and find a place to stay and live, at least temporarily. And then Portugal, because if you've ever spent a winter in Ukraine, you realize it can be quite cold, and a lot of people wanted a warm weather country. So we picked Portugal as well. So I can't say enough about our clients and the support that they provided. We had clients meeting our staff at the border of various countries in Romania and in Poland. They'd find a place to stay. Medicine and clothing and other things that people needed. And it was a nerve-wracking time because it was an inflection point. And we didn't know, are we going to have a company? Are our clients going to abandon us, or are our clients going to stick with us? And they really did a great job. They felt like these are team members. These are part of their team. It's not just someone on the outside. So I ended up getting on a plane. I flew to meet with all of our clients, mostly in the U.S. We had offers of housing, offers of all kinds of support that was really really impressive, and helped us get through the time without as much problems as we could have had. So this is an interesting slide. This is not productivity, but this is team availability. This is the amount of time that people are actually available to work. And they realized very quickly that work is not just something you do to earn money and take care of your family, but it was also a distraction from what was going on in the world, and be able to get your mind off of following the war on Twitter or on Telegram. So you'll see actually a normal productivity or availability for us is in the low 90s, because people have vacation and they have sick days and things like that. It obviously dropped down quite a bit when the war started, but then starting in May and June, it actually was higher than it ever had been before. People were able to get their mind off of what was going on in the world by digging into work. And they felt they had to demonstrate to the clients that they're here, that they don't have to worry about it, because the biggest risk we had was clients saying, I'm sorry, we have our own deadlines, and if you can't help us meet our deadlines and our priorities, we're going to have to go elsewhere. Luckily, that didn't happen. We were able to get back to work quickly. It helped our people support themselves and their families, and our clients were extremely generous and helpful throughout this difficult time. But we also realized, we can't call ourselves a Ukraine-based company anymore. We had large percentage of our staff was now in Europe, but our clients were asking for risk mitigation and geographic diversification. So we started even before the war hiring in Latin America. We have almost 150 people now in Latin America, and that's actually helped us become a stronger company. Time zones are closer to our clients in many cases, and we found that the skills that we built as a software development company, finding, training, managing people, it wasn't unique to Ukraine. We could do the same thing in other parts of the world. So Brazil is our second largest market now for staff. We also hire a lot of Ukrainians abroad, because many of them moved to Europe or were looking for jobs. So when after the war started, I started traveling. Instead of going to Ukraine, where I'd been almost 140 times over the last 25 or 30 years, I visited with our staff in different places, different parts of the world. And I ended up, it's not on this slide, but I ended up in Berlin, where Stacy, who we talked about a few minutes ago, where she ended up. I asked her, about her path and her journey, and she said that it took her about 36 hours to get from Kharkiv to Lviv, but she actually got on the train in Kharkiv at 4 a.m. on the morning of the 24th of February, and the war started around 4:30 in the morning. So I said, "Okay, that's interesting. What made you decide to finally leave?" I said to her, you said that your husband had a job and he couldn't leave, and your mother didn't want to go. And she said, "That's true, but it's because of what you told me." And I said, "I don't remember. What did I tell you?" And she said, "Well, none of that matters if you're dead." And I said, "Yeah, that actually is true." So we'll also talk about Inga. Unfortunately, Inga had a different path. The town that she was in outside of Kyiv is very near to Bucha. And as many of you know, Bucha was a site of atrocities at the beginning of the war. And Inga, unfortunately, Inga and her husband haven't been seen since the 4th of March, which was just a little over a week since after the war started. So there was a Sky News article about her mother's search for Inga and her husband. Unfortunately, they've not been found. So where are we now? As a company, we're a much more global company, a stronger company. It was a very difficult time, but we were able to get through it as best that we could. We went from 97% Ukraine-based to 46% now. We're still hiring in Ukraine, but we also hire a lot in Latin America, Kazakhstan, and a lot of Ukrainians abroad. So lessons learned going through a difficult time like this. Clients can accept just about anything if they're aware and they understand and they trust you. So, keep the clients up to date, extremely important. And we communicated with them weekly. I got on a plane, I traveled to see them, and they understood. They really felt they feel a kinship with our people, and they did what they could to help. At the same time, communication with the team. It wasn't, not every company in Ukraine worked the same way we did. We've heard a lot of stories of what I'm told is they call it a culture of blame. So companies would say, well, you didn't listen to us. You didn't leave and we told you to. So now you're someone else's problem. You're not our problem anymore. Don't expect to be working for us any longer. That's certainly not what we did. Only 20% of our company ended up taking us up on the offer, but we had empathy for our staff. We had that group of people proactively reaching out, trying to help people to move, to find housing. And I think it's built a stronger company because it's something that our staff appreciated, and they don't know that they can get the same type of culture in somewhere else. So that's where we are today.
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm Ukrainian. I'm currently living in San Benedetto in Italy.
My name is Ino. I am from Brazil.
I'm Marcel. I'm Kazakh. I live in Almaty, Kazakhstan.
Мене звати Юля. Зараз знаходжусь в Порту, Португалія.
Мене звати Юрій, я українець. Зараз проживаю в Стамбулі, це Туреччина.
Мене звати Сабіна. Зараз знаходжуся в Афінах, в Греції.
Salut, je m'appelle Adrien, je suis camerounais, je vis à Sao Paulo, au Brésil.
Я Аня, українка, і живу у Львові.
So thank you, everyone. I'm going to be at booth C2 if anyone wants to stop and talk to me, and appreciate you listening. Thank you.